This week, we take a look at Nyeri High School and Moi Forces Academy Lanet's journey from the knockout stages to the finals.
The anchor that we have dropped is that we have let children take the responsibility like adults. We have told teenagers, okay, you can drink, okay, you can club, you can party, you can do all these evil things, whereas their mind is not yet well developed, that it can be able to tell that, you know this, it is wrong, you know this, it is right.
You know, it's interesting how they mention an anchor when in fact they're about to drop an anchor on us. Let me explain how. Which one would you prefer? A kind of youth that moves into, not from the anchor, they're taking us to an anchor. But this is where we're taking you. We are taking the youth at an early age to where the captain is. That means we want to steer the ship early. This means that we prepare the youth for leadership positions at an early age.
So, Edward said that we have to wait till our children turn 21, till our youth turn 21, and we get them to school. Listen to our argument, my fellow opposers. What we are saying is don't give them, not to give them a chance to continue studying. We are saying wait for us to mature.
If the government is able to recognize that actually at 18, you're starting to become an adult and you have to be empowered. Actually, the Jubilee government is giving 30% of tenders in the government to the youth. So it means they've seen the potential in the youth actually, so that they're able to empower them.
My question is based on what the first proposer said. If you're going to raise the bar to 21, we see that teens still under 18 practice drug abuse and all this. What is the guarantee that when you raise it to 21, we still won't do the same? Or those people who engage in drug abuse and alcohol still won't do the same?
At the age of 18, we are still children, fresh from high school. We really don't know what the world holds for us. It is at this point that we need to be integrated and inducted into the world. We need to be taught values and skills that will help us handle the situations in life. So if you let me go when I'm still fresh from high school, I will work upon my feelings and upon what my peers tell me, and not upon what I've been guided to do.
Once a teenager turns 18, he knows he has all the power. So he tries to do the things which he was stopped at when he was still young. So once you give him that power, how can we ensure he stays in line?
They say the purpose of education is to make you somebody better in the society, right? 18 years of learning. Ladies and gentlemen, 18 years of learning. And tell me if those 18 years will make you not realize, you know, if I drink, it's wrong. You were taught that by your teacher. It's even spelled out by the Kenya Breweries Association. They tell you do not drink alcohol in excess. Can't you read? 18 years you've read, you know it's wrong.
Let me come to MFL Lanet, Moi Forces Lanet. Magdalene, always good. You started us off well. Facts on developmental psychology, that at the age of 21, the brain is more developed. That was good. Focus on crimes, okay. Time, I think you could have made better use of your time as a first speaker.
To the sisters, Moi Forces Academy, Lanet, I think you bring a new twist to the Great Debaters Contest. And the new twist is that you do not have to be loud, you know, to put your point across. And that's a good thing, you know. It shows that it's not about, you know, the loudness of your voice that can get people or sway people to listen to you, but it's about the content and the facts that you lay on the table.
Moi Forces, Nairobi Academy, Njoroge, always the man I always expect. You never disappoint. Content and research, wow. Bill, welcome. However, there was a lot of expectations of you, knowing very well that there was another guy right where you're seated, and we was already experienced in a particular level. You're a good speaker, but I noticed that there's the word actually, which is very common in your speech as you're speaking. Great points, though, while you're speaking. Wesonga, very confident as well, and you try to connect with the audience. However, content matters when you're trying to do the same thing. All the best to the winning team.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Marriage Institution. I bet you're all aware of the advertisement that usually airs in our local media houses. achana na mpango wa kando, la sivyo weka condom kwa mpango. Avoid adultery. If you can't, use a condom along with it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's crystal clear that, well, adultery is sexual immorality, but if you can use it with a condom, and yet you can say that condoms and contraceptives are not condoning sexual immorality. I bet they are.
Sodom and Gomorrah, why were they destroyed? Sexual immorality. Do you want to tell me that condoms and contraceptives existed in those times? No. Family planning, these contraceptives are used for family planning. If family planning is immoral, then why are we all still here? Some of us are an example of family planning. Come on, people, let's all be realistic.
Excuse me, we're in the 21st century. We are not in the ages of Pharaoh. We are not in the long 18th centuries, 15, 16, before Christ. We're in the 21st century. One thing we have to accept is that sexual immorality is with us. We are not denying that sex is everywhere. But all we are saying is use of condoms and contraceptives will assist us in preventing major issues, big problems in the society, and that is what we are supporting.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the Philippines, contraceptives and condoms were banned. 80% of the population were Catholics, and they condemned it. As a result, what happened? 25% was the increasing rate of spread of HIV and AIDS. I'd like us to bring this to our attention. If you have a problem, you always come up with a solution, right? At a particular point, do you blame that solution because of the problem? No, we can't blame condoms because of sexual immorality.
We do not deny the fact that condoms and contraceptives enhance or reduce the risk of transmission of sexually transmitted infections and diseases. We agree. But at the same time, we are just saying that it condones sexual immorality. That's all we are saying, not anything else. On the same angle, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm a worried man. Because when I look at the future, I'm worried. I fear for our children. I fear for our daughters and sons. Ladies and gentlemen, I fear because I see our sons and daughters engaging in sexual acts in the ages of 10, 11, and 12.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us stop burying our heads in the sun like a proverbial ostrich. Wake up and see the light. Wake up from your deep slumber and stupor and see what is going on. It has nothing to do with condoms. It is in your head. Nothing to do with condoms. You know, somebody once said is that the way people describe immorality is the way everyone else is sinning except themselves. They explain immorality as what others are doing, not what they themselves are doing. That is sexual immorality.
Samuel, you've been charming in your previous debates, but I think you're taking advantage of your speaking skills and you ignore content, which is very dangerous. Be composed. I find you convincing when you are composed, and your manner of speaking is also very good when you are composed. But I think you are so much charged up because the motion is emotive to an extent that you forgot that you have content to deliver, and also you are not orderly.
I'll start with Nyeri High School. Kamau, good points, good research, and good use of analogies. However, you didn't utilize your time fully, and that as well, we are looking at that. Chris, good speaker, good stage presence, but however, do not generalize, not all public institutions, because we know of nurseries that are primary schools that don't have all these things. So it's good for you to note that there are particular ones, probably because of age.
To condone means to allow, to accept, to approve, to sanction. And so with that, I think as a panel of judges, we are unanimous that the two teams did not do justice to a topic that is sensitive, that is of interest to us, to parents, and to policymakers. We expected better performance from the two teams, and I must say that we were a little disappointed.
Sovereignty of the state is an outdated concept, and that is why I say that states should realize the sovereignty is no longer working. They should change their plan, change the strategy, and move forward, join the rest of the world, and grow. One of the things that I would like to talk about today is, for example, the pillars that have stated and have shown without a doubt the sovereignty is an outdated concept. The pillars, for example, are globalization, growth of economic standards, the rise of people. People are becoming opinionated, technological advancement. You know, when you give something, you expect to receive something in return. First of all, I want to prove to you that sovereignty is not outdated. An example of countries such as Angola, Algeria, and Afghanistan are not members of the United Nations. This tells us that they have immunity to international laws. They are not obliged to subscribe to any laws that the United Nations puts forward. For example, all of us know that the United Nations requires army members from all its states to go and quell violence in one of its member states. This is an example of a law that does not shake these countries.
When a country joins an international organization, the international organization does not comprise of one country only. It comprises of several other countries. And for it to comprise of several other countries, each country in that block has its own rule, has its own system of governance. But in joining an international organization, they have to be accountable to another set of rules and regulations.
So let us not look at sovereignty. I think what our proposals are attacking on is sovereignty as a chance of being helped. My audience, being helped does not show that we do not have sovereignty. Being helped by other countries that have developed in Europe, in Africa, all over the world, shows that we are in unity. Sovereignty, freedom is all about unity, my audience. Unity because if we are able to unite and allow them to help us do these things, why then are we accusing them of taking away our sovereignty?
My question to the proposers is, are you suggesting that by joining international organizations, we are losing our identity as Kenya and as a country?
We are not losing our identity as a country. We are losing our identity as a sovereign state. So many things. Let me give you an example of one company, Rakshak Bankeza. It manufactures Dettol, Jik, and all that. The company is based in Kenya and does these things for Kenya. But if you look at their packaging, it is still written for the Queen. So where does all this go back to? It goes back to their mother country.
But we don't need to bind ourselves to laws that we do not believe in. We don't need to bind ourselves to people who are going to use us for their own benefit. They come here, they mine our gold, they mine our titanium, they get rich, we remain poor. They get into the developed countries' state, we remain developing. It's always going to be developing, developing, developing. All because we don't want to stand up. We don't want to jump from the back and become sovereign. We don't want to stand for who we really are and go forward.
Halaku, Angela, and Eden, you form a great team. Nonetheless, the first speaker, Halaku, you had much to do, which you did not do. Like deconstructing the motion, that was not clear. Angela, it was good. Rebuttal, very effective. But on your language, can be able, cannot be able. Remember, you've come this far. Now we are penalizing on anything, or rather any mistake that you make.
Angela, good cross-examination, good use of examples. Eden, good. Magdalene, thank you for defining the motion, deconstructing it as well, introducing yourself. However, be cautious. Do not start cross-examining. You're the first speaker and you need to just give us the points. This is the work of the cross-examiner. Abigail, good cross-examination. However, your strength, passion, and conviction wasn't that much portrayed this time. Anne, good.
Moi Forces Academy, Lynette, Magdalene, again, every time you come up front, you impress me. And I can only wish you the best. Abigail, your energy was missing this time round. I don't know whether it was a topic that was too complex, but we did not see the zeal and the energy that you have portrayed earlier. And good job, but you needed to have some points as well. At some point, I could tell that you were just going round and round in circles. However, you did it well, you did it smartly, and so unless somebody was very keen to note, they might actually not see that that is what you did. All the best to the two teams.
This oath states that I abjure any allegiance that I have paid to any other country or I have been citizen to any other country. So what does this tell me? It tells me that I have to renounce my loyalty to my country and I have to pay my total allegiance to this United States country, failure to which I will be guilty of breaching this oath of allegiance, which is a criminal offense. Now, don't you see that taking up dual citizenship as a Kenyan and also intending to be a US citizen will be betraying my loyalty to my own country?
Prior to the promulgation of the new constitution, for an athlete to go to another country, train there, they had to revoke their Kenyan citizenship to acquire the citizenship of another country. The result was this: that athlete did not anymore hold claim to Kenya. As we speak, a Kenyan citizen can go and train in the United States, in Britain, and at the same time pledge allegiance to Kenya. My loyalty as a citizen is not based on an item or a document. It's simply based on what I feel, not a document. Thank you.
Dual citizenship divides loyalty because Kenyans who go to live in other countries and obtain dual citizenship, ladies and gentlemen, have to disown their culture. We all know that there's a saying that says, when you go to Rome, do as the Romans do. Do as the Romans do, but you were not brought up like the Romans. You were brought up like an African, like an Kenyan. Why go outside and follow what they do? Ladies and gentlemen, dual citizenship is a chain.
These governments around the world, Kenya, Eritrea, the United States, so that the loyalties have nothing to do with documents that identify us with citizenship of a country. They identify us with what we have to do in those countries that will better themselves and they'll better where we've come from. My parents, and I'm sure all of you, have been taught, never forget where you've come from. Always know where you want to go, but never forget your roots.
So dual citizenship, it's actually an activity that has been used to make you feel it's something good. Yeah, you want to be a citizen of two countries, but as a matter of fact, you're renouncing the citizenship of the country which gave you your nationality in order to swear allegiance to a country that you're not familiar to. You leave your culture to swear allegiance to a country that didn't give you your identity.
At the same time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a happy man based on what the proposers have said, because there's something they have said about dual citizen disowning your own country. It simply means that you are a citizen of another country, but still you cannot afford to lose the citizenship of your mother country. It means you love both. At the same time, most of us have two parents and we love them both. Therefore, we are loyal to both. That proves the fact that you can be a citizen of two particular nations and be loyal to them equally.
Nelson, impressive. I really, really loved you. You came so strongly at the end. You upheld the spirit of the motion. You're very perceptive, and you looked at loyalty not just in terms of being physical in a given country, but you equally looked at loyalty in terms of the culture, loyal to our culture. But I would also to Dennis, when you came to make the winding statement, you came now again very strongly. I suppose the energy you finalized your argument, you could have used it also to begin your argument.
Nyeri High School, Boru, good use of time. However, I noticed you're quite struggling explaining to us about the motion and all that. However, you're a good speaker and you make a good team. Nelson, wow. I mean, you're a great replacement because I know Dennis and Boru have been here before. I would say you're a good guy and you have content. All the best to the winning team.
My comments will be general. Moi Forces Academy, Magdalene, a very good introduction. I just love when you stand up here, good job. Abigail, a good addition to the team, and I must commend you for, standing up for your team, despite the fact that, this is your first time. You did brilliantly. And again, I love your composure. I love your soft voice, but what you tell us is really deep. Good job to the team.
We have slowly awakened to the reality that the head cannot very well move without the neck. Ladies, you are the neck. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now about mutual consensus. Partnership between the two, not the man as the sole authority. Ladies and gentlemen, let us take the case of decision making. In our constitution, it allows for women to very well vie for leadership positions. At the same time, there is a clause to ensure that there is not more than 2/3 being men. Women are allowed leadership in the government. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a basic fact that what happens at the top of the hierarchy affects the bottom of the hierarchy.
What I'm trying to say is that we cannot oppose nature. We cannot oppose nature. That is what Nyeri High you're trying to tell us. That look at the bird's kingdom. Look at the animal kingdom. Man, the male species rules. The male species is the head. I want to take you down memory lane. Look at yourself. Look at your father, your mother, your brother, your sister. All of you share one thing in common, and that is your surname. Which means, if my father is called Peter Kamau, I will be Magdalene Kamau, my brother will be John Kamau, my sister will be Terry Kamau, and so forth and so forth. This tells me that we share one name, and that is Kamau. And that tells me this Kamau person is the head of this family. No wonder we all identify with him.
Since time immemorial, men have led their families. But in the current society today, the tables have turned. Taking the Shriver report, it states that 39.3% of women are leading their families. To give it more a factual figure, 5.1 million women are the sole breadwinners in their families. What does that tell us? That 5.1 million families don't have a male figure standing in as the sole breadwinner.
My opposer also gave statistics about 39.3% of women leading their families. I have a question. Who are the 60.7% remaining? Aren't they men? They are. So who says men are no longer the heads of the family?
My name is Samuel Mashara, and my question goes to the proposers. The Bible says that the man shall be the head of the family and the woman shall be the neck to support. By saying that men and women should share an equal playing field in decision making, we are trying to say that the head and the neck should share equal responsibilities, which is impossible. Second of all, do you know that women having economic power has nothing to do with their leadership in their homes? They come home and submit to the men. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I start on my argument, I would like to go straight to the question. The first question, you've asked that the man is the head and the woman is the neck. And I want to ask you a question. Can a head move without the neck? This motion is not about women leading men. It's about women and men complementing their roles together to solve their problems together. It's not about women taking the role of men. We are talking about mutual consensus. And I repeat, mutual consensus.
And I pose my question to the opposers. You said that only 2 countries in Africa have women as their presidents. Now, do you dignify male chauvinism in Africa by stating that the man has the upper hand in the society?
We are not saying that the female is a weaker version of humanity. No, 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 no. We are saying the man is the head. He is the head. You are the headsman, but we are the necks. You need us. So women, ladies, sorry, we are not saying you are weak. They need you, but they are still the head. They are the foundation. They are the roof, but we are the foundation. Without the foundation, where will the roof stand?
The hour has finally come, and I have the pleasure of announcing the winner of the Great Debaters 2013. But before I do that, let me just make a few statements. As a panel of judges, we are impressed by the level of debate. This has greatly improved over the years, and the decision that we are going to, the award that we're going to present today to the Great Debater 2013 was a unanimous decision. We took into consideration research skills of the team, communication skills, coherency of argument, mastery of language, style and presentation, and the ability to persuade the audience that their reasoning was the right direction to go. And so I'll quickly go to what we've all been waiting for. The title of the Great Debaters 2013 goes to Moi Forces Academy, Lanette. So could we have the runners-up, Nyeri High School? We need to clap for Nyeri High School as well. The teachers, Nyeri High School teachers. Moi Forces Academy, Lynette, please come forward.
Kindly let's give them a round of applause. This is encouraging as well.
Check is courtesy of Chess Bank.
I see tears flowing on the stage because that's the power of an opinion. That's the power of debate. To move people, to bring emotions, and to do just that. And as we close this final debate, I'd like to tell Nyeri High I have one word for you. You're giants. Let's applaud them. And of course, Moi Forces Academy, Lynette, you are formidable. You are great debaters this season, and we hope to see you move and become even better people in the future. You are the leaders of tomorrow. Let's also applaud them. So next time, as you stand on this stage to debate, remember you're here to move, you're here to make a change. From all of us here at the Great Debaters Contest, our second season, it's goodbye till next time. I am your host, Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Yombok. Thank you very much.